Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to Cimmerian September in its last days. This is an event created by Michael K. Vaughan to celebrate the original Conan writings of Robert E. Howard, not any of the adaptations that have followed, the pastiches or the weird emendations by people who wanted to fix Howard's work. And this event is meant to send you back to those stories, which now exist in very carefully curated forms, so you actually can access them. And yet, I have not been doing that. I have been going to pastiches myself. I've been reading Marvel Comics Black and White magazine, Savage Sword of Conan. Rereading a lot, but also reading a lot, because I gave up on Savage Sword of Conan about halfway through its run, a little bit more than halfway through its run. The individual issues just didn't seem to be doing anything for me. So I gave up on it and only glanced at it after that. Occasionally, you're at a comic shop or whatever and you're looking through things, and every once in a while, even I would give in to my baser instincts and page through things just standing there in the shop. You absolutely should not do that. You absolutely should know what you want to buy instead of previewing everything by just standing there without buying anything. Every once in a while I would do that. I guess maybe the rationale I used was that I had a likelihood of buying Conan if it turned out to look anywhere halfway decent, but I often ignored those issues or they weren't there. So there's a lot of Conan up in the 200s, especially that I don't know. I've never encountered it before. And lately I've been looking at much earlier issues from when I was buying the magazine, from when I would buy it, I would bring the issue home, I would read it, I would reread it, and I've reread them since. But last night I ventured late into the 200s just to see what I could see. A lot of times the result is not all that good, but I have had pleasant surprises, and last night was a pleasant surprise, very much so. I went to Savage Sword of Conan number 225. And I should warn you right away that cover, Conan versus a Velociraptor, does not happen in the issue. A lot of fantastic things do. I have to believe that this is just a portfolio piece, because if someone did a cover based on the events in this issue, that cover would have been really, really good. I can think of a few ways to do it myself. Instead, we have, I don't know, it's orangey and it's a little bit amateurish. It's just a tiny bit amateurish, right? There's nothing to stop this creature from biting Conan's arm off if he grabs it by the throat, and also his left arm is 1 foot longer than his right arm. It's not a particularly good cover. I saw that, and even when I thought, okay, Velociraptors, maybe this thing came out when Jurassic Park was in the theaters, so you want one of those on the cover. But I thought this might be painful, but I got a great surprise because the artwork is by John Buscema. All the artwork. He does the pencils and the inks. And it is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. We get a big 2-page spread there of the band that Conan is in being attacked by cannibals deep in the swamp. The swamp is denoted by the black water with, the lily pads floating on top of black water. Very good detail. And these creatures they snuck up on this band by the age-old pulp trick of hiding below the water and breathing through hollow reeds. And they commence slaughtering Conan's people, and they seem to have a tactical advantage on their side because it's not possible to hurt them. They've got their teeth filed down, they're cannibals, but when you jab them, they don't appear to be wounded all that much. And the Conan hears cries of alarm and realizes that another band is also under attack by these same beings. And he leads his men to charge in and help that other band. They are fighting savagely. Conan lets loose with what we're told when Conan adds his own Cimmerian war cry to the prowess of his good right arm. And in this panel, we learn that Conan's war cry is the same as Miss Piggy's. Hi-ya! How wonderful. I think they're very similar. They drive off. There aren't enough of these marauders, so they drive them off just temporarily. And Conan wants to know who's in command of this group. And he hears a voice that is familiar to him. It is Valeria. Robert E. Howard femme fatale who really doesn't get the credit that she deserves. She has been overshadowed in most Conan runs, including the Conan the Barbarian from Marvel Comics by Bayleet, Queen of the Black Coast, and also by Red Sonja, who is a Roy Thomas creation. Valeria is a Robert E. Howard creation. And I would say there's less meat on her bones in terms of a character or a storyline than anyone except Zenobia. Uh, and Conan knows her. They have a long history, and Buscema draws her wonderfully, absolutely wonderfully. And it was when I was reading this that I thought, wait a minute, okay, so is this? And then I looked around. I looked around in the editorial material of the issue, and it turns out, yeah, this is Roy Thomas and John Buscema doing a prequel to the Robert E. Howard story Red Nails, which is not only a famous Robert E. Howard story, but is also a famous Roy Thomas Conan story. Because decades before Roy Thomas did this, he did an adaptation of Red Nails for Savage Sword in its very earliest issues with great artwork by Barry Windsor Smith. I would say that the Barry Windsor Smith artwork on Red Nails is almost ground zero for him starting to feel that if he took a little more time with his work and worked a little harder at it and didn't pastiche anybody, he might have his own style, his own visual style. Now, of course, in later years after that, that visual style flourished, and he became instantly recognizable on his own without pastiching anybody. But I think that adaptation of Red Nails, I haven't done it yet on Cimmerian in September, but that really shows Barry Windsor Smith in a way that fans had not seen him before, and that adaptation is terrific. And this is supposed to be the events immediately leading up to that adaptation. So these two bands meet. They're not getting along very well. They're chafing, and Valeria is also not happy with the way she's treated, by either band of men. Conan says, if a woman must live in a war camps of men, she can expect such things as the lewd behavior that she's getting. And she says, easy for you to say. It's not your skirt he'd soon be slipping his hand into. Why won't men let me lead a man's life? And Conan says, that's too obvious to answer. I kind of wish he had answered it. It's typical, get right to the heart of things, Roy Thomas scripting. And she has no more interest in him, Conan, than she does in anyone else. She stalks off, and we hear a cry of alarm as the camp is attacked again by these warriors, and they're even worse than the first time because they don't appear to be hurtable. They are worshiping the moon, and it seems to be making them unstoppable. So that even when Conan chops an arm off one of them, it isn't affected in any way. Our heroes are fighting, but it's not seeming to work all that well. They look to be on the verge of being completely beaten when Conan decides to pull a trick of his own. He uses a ball of ink that he got from a merchant, to appear to block out the moon. And since these warriors worship the moon, that does the trick. Suddenly they lose their faith in their own invincibility. And as Conan puts it later on, either the direct light of the moon gave them the supernatural stamina, or they believed it did. One way or the other, when it's gone, suddenly he spears one of them, and the warrior appears to be as unhurt, but then he keels over because whatever protected them before is not protecting them now. And they go about fighting. Conan says maybe their moon spell ran its course, or maybe they were only sword-proof as long as they believed they were. I took a chance, and it paid off, and they ride off. He frees the rest of these men, and they ride off into the jungles. And Valeria is not happy with being rescued. She storms off, and we get this wonderful Buscema montage. He's really good at these sorts of things. He does it every once in a while, even in mainstream comic books like Thor, where we get a sort of a clockwise glimpse of a whole bunch of different aspects of Valeria getting along with this crew, working her way in while Conan also charms them. To use a weird word, he charms them with his own nature. And the neat thing about these montages like this is that you don't need the blocks of text to know what's going on. Ever. When Buscema does this, you don't ever need blocks of text to understand it. You can just follow the pictures and use your imagination. he's an old school writer in that way, in that he really doesn't want the writer to be necessary. He really wants to visually tell a story. Uh, but Valeria still has trouble. The man that pestered her before pesters her again, and needs to be sent to the underworld for his trouble. Uh, she rides off because she's worried about trouble for killing one of these men, and Conan rides off after her. She's being pursued by a gigantic oafus figure from the band, and Conan is not willing to let him go any further if he has negative intentions toward Valeria. So they fight. Beautiful artwork here. Just go. I know I haven't been going on and on like I usually do, but Buscema doing his own inks is just amazing. It's just, there is a beautiful decision literally on every panel here. I would ordinarily carp about the minimal backgrounds in a lot of this. A lot of this is just figures with no background of any kind. But look at the details that are going on, even in this panel. That is just incredible what's going on there. The different use of the, even here, to hint at the textures of the bark with different width lines and different placement of lines, just amazingly good. Conan kills the man, of course, because you don't win against Conan, and he takes off after Valeria, but she's got a good head start, and they are headed. That we end the story there because they are headed for their adventure in Red Nails. I guess Roy Thomas must always have wanted to do this. The rest of the comic has artwork like this. Let me get you an example of. We don't want to. This is a number of backup features, but I think one of the backup features is a Conan feature, so that I can show you. Oh no. We get an Ernie Chan full color pinup. This is the 225th anniversary bonus pinup, and there are a bunch of others. There are a bunch of other portfolio pieces here that really. I mean, Ernie Chan, I might be developing a soft spot for his work, but this, what is that even? What is that even? It's so overdone that you can't even tell what's happening in the picture. No, give me the classic simplicity of Buscema inking his own work. Give me that any day. And that is it. As you know, as I said, there is no point anywhere in the story where the cover is borne out. The cover is, I think, probably a nod towards Jurassic Park. Conan fights velociraptors plenty of times in the whole run of Savage Sword of Conan, and plenty of times in Conan the Barbarian as well. But think about what this cover could have been. I mean, think about a dramatic cover that, not to be brute here, but a more talented artist could have done of Conan and Valeria surrounded by warriors with half carved heads, or spears through their faces, or spears through their hearts, still shambling forward. That is the supernatural or quasi supernatural gist of the issue, and that would have been better for a cover. That would have been more memorable, more creepy. This is not quite, but anyway. But the issue itself, oh boy. So that is my issue for today. But it does present me with a problem, because Cimmerian September is running out of days, and I would like to cover some of the earlier issues of Savage Sword that I love so much. Even though I've read them a million times, I'm never going to get a chance like this again. But I also don't want to miss any of these later issues. I worry that once Cimmerian September is over, I won't have the fire in my belly to go spelunking through these old issues of Savage Sword of Conan, looking for gems like this. So I don't know what I'll do. I'll decide tonight. I'll pick at random tonight. But that's your issue for today. What was the name of this thing? I don't even remember. Swords of Sukhmet is the name of the adventure. Pretty good, even though it is very much a prelude, and it sets you up right away to wonder where your loyalties lie. I mean, this was a wonderful find, and I love watching Buscema ink his own pencils, but it feels like sacrilege to say that anything is a better interpretation of any of these characters than the Barry Windsor Smith interpretation from that original run. That has a lot of layers of nostalgia on it, and it was awarded. The industry loved it. It was right around then that people started noticing this is superior work that's being done in this magazine. I guess I don't have to choose. I don't have to choose. It makes me wonder. I wonder if somewhere in the Savage Sword of Conan run that I'm just not aware of, Roy Thomas and John Buscema did a version of Red Nails. I don't think they ever did. even though we saw earlier in the month they did redo the Tower of the Elephant. I don't think they ever did Red Nails, so this is probably the closest I get. Anyway, that's your Conan for today. I'll wrap this up for now, but I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.